I loved the West Africans. The situation they were coming from, and most of them were from Liberia, which is right on the west coast, or Sierra Leone, which is right above Liberia. Um, and there was heavy civil war in those countries for years and years throughout the mid and late 90s. And so most of them, actually all of them, had to flee their homes, and they were in refugee camps, either in countries nearby like the Ivory Coast or places like that. And one way or another, they were chosen to come to America. They even had like a lottery was one of the ways that they could come to America. One family that we had taught, they won a lottery, and the prize was to come to America and kind of get a start here. And so that's the situation they were coming from. Many of them have seen family members killed right in front of them. They've like I said, fled from different groups in the Civil War. And so they had been through very, very difficult things that we as missionaries really could not understand at all. But their humility because of what they'd been through, and their appreciation for being in a new place that was safe, they were wonderful people. They were extremely humble and grateful just for the opportunity to be there. And even though we couldn't understand what they were going through or what they had been through, we felt a great connection to them because of the gospel and because of their love for the Savior. They had extreme faith, extremely powerful faith, and that made it very easy to help them receive the gospel, even if they couldn't understand everything we were trying to teach them. Of course, there was a bit of a language barrier, and a lot of them had difficulty reading in English to read the Book of Mormon and things like that, but their faith made up for what they didn't understand. And something that we had to learn to teach them was to teach simply, and that's something that I appreciated, because it helped me to learn the gospel very, I guess just the foundation of the gospel very well, to be able to teach that to them and communicate that to them. And so I felt like that helped me learn and grow a lot, to learn to communicate with people who really didn't have any of the same experience that I had. Came from a totally different world, but that we could get on the same page when it came to talking about the gospel. And I know that was definitely a testimony builder for me of the Spirit being a part of our work and a part of our teaching, was when we could connect with them, even though we're, two very different people from very different backgrounds. The food was interesting. They would feed us a lot of things, usually not their traditional food, because they knew it was a little different for us. And they were always cooking fish. I'd say 95% of the time I ever went into a West African's apartment, there was steam coming through the front door and out the windows, because they were boiling fish and they were boiling peppers all day long. Probably the most interesting thing that I ate in a West African home was chicken feet, just boiled chicken feet. And that was very different. I still can't really figure out why you'd eat that part of the chicken rather than just the meat on the chicken, but that was definitely the most interesting thing I ate was a chicken foot. From teaching them, and my trainer, he had taught Africans for most of his mission as well. So I, would pick up things about their home country and, about the different parts of Liberia and things like that, and some of the words and some of the customs. And then we would meet them and we would, say those words or ask them where they were from in Liberia. And they were just amazed, because the general population in the United States knows nothing about West Africa. And so they're like, wow, you've been to Africa? Like, holy cow, this is amazing. And it was awesome to see how much they'd warm up to you if you take interest in their culture, and how much more receptive and more willing to listen they were if you knew something about where they were from and cared about that. So that was really cool. I really loved learning about Liberia. there was an amazing experience that I'll share. There was one man that we taught in Des Moines who was 84 years old, and he could hardly speak or understand English, just a little bit. He could speak it better than he could understand it. And he was blind. And so his daughter-in-law was a member of the church, and she would translate the lessons for us. We could communicate with him just saying hello and things like that in English. But for him to receive the lessons, he'd need to hear it in his own dialect. So his daughter-in-law would translate, and of course we really had no idea what she was saying, but we trusted her that she was communicating our message. And something that was amazing, a part of his conversion, was when we were trying to help him understand the role of the Book of Mormon, because of course he couldn't read, and there's no Braille in their native dialect or anything like that. So we decided to give him a copy of the Book of Mormon anyway, even though he couldn't read it. And when we very first gave him the Book of Mormon, he held it to his chest and he cried, because he could feel the power of the Book of Mormon without even reading it or without even being able to see it. And he cried and thanked us for giving him his own copy. And he would hold it in his hands every morning and every night when he would pray. And so we kept asking him how that was, and he'd tell us he felt something in his whole body when he would hold the Book of Mormon and pray, even though he couldn't read a word of it. And so that was a great testimony builder for me, that no matter where you're from or what language you speak, that Father in heaven will speak to you, and that the Spirit will speak to you and testify of the truthfulness of the gospel and of the Book of Mormon. God will speak to us, and no matter who we are. And so that was a great experience that I had teaching West Africans.